Right, all right, Rabosai, guten Erev Shabbos, Yeshikach Tamaishi for the beautiful cholent. Mamish, it's meat, kishka, everything. Alamailas. This is something else. All right, Chabra, please make sure. Yes. We'll say, please make sure to take something to eat, something to drink. So we'll say we're going to continue Mirat Hashem. I want to spend one more week on this piece that we've been doing by the Rebbe Rabbi Nachman. So remember again, the Rebbe has been focusing us on this truly beautiful idea, this incredible idea that the avoda first thing in the morning is to go ahead and see the good. Right? Remember again, Shehu Ma'orar HaShachar. The whole yisod in the morning ultimately again is see the good inside of yourself. Although there may be many things that are broken, although there may be many things in a state of disrepair, the only way to start the day is ultimately to see the good. And remember again, we saw the Rebbe read that into the opening line of Shulchan Aruch next week. So I want to continue along that theme a little bit. We're actually going to jump around a little bit in this piece by the Rebbe. So I numbered the sheets tonight, so hopefully you can follow. So I'm on page 1 in the packet. So if you see again, we're going to be learning through the middle section here, Likutei Halachos HaMavuar. So if you look on page 1, good, there should be it's a little number 1, right? A little 1 over there in the middle of the bottom of the first page, and right by the asterisk. V'zeh, b'chinas kol seder hatfila shetiknu chazal. The Rebbe says the truth is this dynamic, right? This dynamic of being able to see the good. And this dynamic, ultimately, again, I will say, remember again, that the Rebbe's whole theme over here is Od Ma'at Ve'ein Rasha. Heshi, welcome. You can pull up a chair, this challenge. Yeah. Right? No alcohol, though, for you. That's right. So the Pasuk says, right, the verse is Od Ma'at Ve'ein Rasha. That ultimately, no matter how much we compromise ourselves in life, there's always the good.
Where's the Pasuk?
Tell him. Which? I'll tell you in a second. I think actually it's Kili Lama Zaftani. It's Azar Malala Kaiba Odi. All right, I'll find it for you in just a minute. So I'll say, so the idea over here is, so there's a good inside of each of us, and even though the good itself might be a little bit tarnished, right, and the good itself may be imperfect. I will say, no, it sounds like a stira, right? To have good which is imperfect, to have good which is negatively impacted. You could have a thing like that. I find something good inside myself, but even the good is a shtickle compromised. But the idea still, nevertheless, is to find the good. Remember, the Rebbe had the whole progression. If you find the good, you're able to sing, right? Once you're able to sing, you could compose your niggin. Once you're able to see the good in yourself and the good in others, you could be the shliach tzibur. So the Rebbe says, "V'zeh b'chinas kol seder atil shtiknu chazal." The Rebbe says, the truth is, the ability to see the good in oneself is the entire essence of tefillah in general. Shakol, page 2. Shakol, middle of the page, right by the asterisk. Shakol sovev al inyan zeh shel chipos u'metzias haTorah. I will say this is absolutely wild piece. The Rebbe says the entire essence of tefillah is focused on the ability to see the good inside of yourself, despite having so much negativity. Right? So a person could be surrounded by a sea of negativity, but I have to find something good inside of me. The Rebbe said, now watch this. Now it's interesting, and I don't know why the Rebbe does this. The Rebbe is going to go through the entire order of Tefillah, from Birchas HaShachar through Shmona Esrei. But I don't know why. The order, it doesn't go in the order of Tefillah. So the first thing the Rebbe starts with is Karbanos. The Rebbe said, and I think the truth is, those of us learning the Daf know why the Rebbe started with Karbanos. Because the power of Karbanos is awesome. Right? The Gemara says a person says Karbanos in the morning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says not only is it counted as if Ma'ala Alav, right? It's counted as if you offered all the Karbanos, and not only that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Amochalo al kol avonosav. I will forgive a person for all his Averis if he says Karbanos. What a deal. What a deal. I'll forgive you for all of your Averis, just say Karbanos. So look what the Rebbe says. We'll say, what's the chap of Karbanos? This is beautiful. V'lachein, betchila omrim Karbanos uktores shehem bechinas berurim. We'll say, we say the section of Karbanos, and we also say the section of Ketores, right, incense. And what's the whole yisod of Karbanos and Ketores? The whole yisod ultimately is borer, is separating one thing from the other. How so? Listen to this. Betchila mevar inyana Karbanos shu berer hatov mitoch olam asiyah hainu shemotzin umevarin nekudos tovos nekudos shel kedusha ve'elokus Afilu mibechinas bahamios umitachlis olam ha'asiyah ki yadua. Ki ze ikar bechinas avodas hakarban, lalos es habehema midargas behema, shu olam ha'asiyah shemur of tovara ledargas. We'll say this is incredible. What's a carbon? What's a carbon? A carbon is you take an animal. You take an animal, right? And what do you do with the animal? Suddenly, again, you take that thing which is an animal, such a base and basic entity, right? And you go ahead and what? You're malet. You malet. Well, there's plenty of room, right? You're malet. Shalom aleichem. Welcome. You're malet, right? You go. Take some challah and something to drink. Nice to see you. Right? So you go ahead and you take something that is behemoth. You take something ultimately, again, that is, right? That is animalistic. And suddenly, you raise it up. Suddenly you make it into something dramatically new. I will say, isn't that the ultimate form of borer, right? Of going ahead and separating the negative from the positive. I go ahead and I take the animal and I separate out the animalistic part, or I should say I raise up the Kedusha part from the animalistic part. Says the Rebbe, that's why there's such an emphasis in karbanos in davening. See, I will say, we saw the Gemara Maseches Tainis. The Gemara says, in the absence of the Beis HaMikdash, when you say karbanos, it's ki'ilu, you're offering all of the karbanos, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'll forgive you for all of your averos. But the Rebbe says, bepnimius, why do we focus on karbanos? And I will say, I'll tell you something amazing. Someone said to me last week, they said, when I say karbanos, I just feel different. They were saying to me, I don't have that change anywhere else in davening. It's such a fascinating, when I say karbanos, I feel different. So I showed him this piece by Rabbi Nachman. I said, because when a person says karbanos, you know what you're doing? You're actively showing that it's possible to take even the most base thing and extract something holy from it. You could take an animal, and you could turn it into tashmishe kedusha. You could take an animal. What's an animal, right? An animal is an animal void of kedusha, and I could extract the droplets of kedusha from that animal. And says the Rebbe, that's the job of a Jew. That's the first thing I do. That's moda'ani she'u ma'orer hashachar. I have to bring out the light. Like the Rebbe said, don't fall asleep. What does sleep mean? Remember what the Rebbe said. What does sleep mean? Sleep means is when I lose myself in my broken kite. Being awake is when I find the good inside of me. The power of karbanos is the ability to extract something holy from something that is otherwise very mundane and base. The Rebbe goes on. What do you say after karbanos? Well, remember again, karbanos, you have the parashas akir, parashas hatamid, ezehu makoman. What else do you have to say? Ketores, incense. What's the Chabad Rebbe says so beautiful? So we're at page 2. The middle section, Likutei Halachos Hamavur over there, right-hand column. Says the Rebbe, Umamshich, Levar Ian Ketores. What's next? Next is Ketores. This is beautiful. V'zeh bechinas Ketores, shahaya b'am chelbina. Well, say if you go through Ketores, you'll notice, by the way, that one of the spices in Ketores is a spice called chelbina. Chelbina had a putrid odor. Chelbina smelled terrible. Dahainu, shemevarin umotzin tov, afilu b'poshe Yisrael, shehem b'mechinas chelbina. So Chazal explained that the different spices of the Ketores correspond to different types of Jews. So who's the chelbina? Who are the Jews who smell? Right? Who are the Jews who smell bad? Those are the Rishon. Those are the wicked ones. Not that they have a literal physical odor, but they have a spiritual odor as a result of their negative activity. And yet, what's the halacha? Ukimo shalom du Rabbi Tzon Zichron lebracha left hand column mizeh kol tefillah she'ein ba mitfilas poshe Yisrael eino tefillah. What does the Gemara say? We'll say this is so profound. Any tefillah, any minyan that doesn't have sinners as part of the minyan is not a tefillah. Any tefillah that doesn't have sinners included in that is not a minyan. In other words, they're both saying, and this is such an incredible idea, being part of Klal Yisrael, we're not a purist religion. Right? We're not a purist religion. We don't believe that only the elite and only the perfect and only the righteous have a seat at the table. Everyone has a seat at the table. And in fact, the table is incomplete if there aren't Risha'im there as well. It's such an incredible yisod. That's the chelbina, right? That's the chelbina. Ultimately, ketores is puzzle if the foul-smelling chelbina is not there. He goes on, he says, Kiekra atfila, he bebechinas ketores. Hainu al yidei shemevarin umotzin nekudas tovas afilo poshe. So bechinas chelbina. So we'll say, so there are two things. So the Rebbe says, how does it that you include the Rishayim? How could Rishayim be included in the klal? So of course the Rebbe will answer, because even Rishayim have sparks of light, and even Rishayim have sparks of good. But I will say the metaphor of the Ketores is so powerful. The Ketores together represents a beautiful, sweet-smelling aroma. Why? Because it has good-smelling things and foul-smelling things, and only when they're all mixed together does it produce the final result. I will say, what an incredible metaphor for the Jew. I have good parts of me, and I have foul-smelling parts of me. I have chelbina. I have plenty of chelbina. But I will say, but interestingly enough, the chelbina is part of who I am. So I can't necessarily get rid of the chelbina. So from a klal perspective, we have to recognize that the Risham are part of the klal also. We'll say such an important yisod to recognize that even those who are highly flawed and imperfect, whether we're talking about ourselves or others, we're all part of the klal. All part of the klal. But the yisod ultimately is there is no klal, there is no ketores without the foul-smelling stuff, representing this idea that the ketores is only the ketores because it has foul-smelling stuff, but also has the sweet-smelling stuff. In life, you have to be cognizant of your chelbana, but you can't define yourself by your chelbana. There's other beautiful things as well. V'zeh, he goes on, let's skip a little bit. So go now to page 3. So page 3, on the bottom left-hand column, bottom left-hand side. So the Rebbe says as follows. V'achra kol zeh karbanos. So we'll say, the parts that I skipped were like this. Let me tell you this outside. Here's the parts that I skipped. So remember again, we go in the Rebbe's model of tefillah. You notice, by the way, what did the Rebbe skip? What did he skip? Right, Rebbe Shmuel, before Rebbe Shmuel. Birchos HaShachar. Right? So we'll come back to it. Like I said, I don't know why the Rebbe, we're going to get to it. So what the Rebbe started with was essentially Moda'ani. That shehe uma ora shachar, okay? We went to, you have to say karbanos, because karbanos ultimately represent pulling out the positive from that which is base. You have to go to ketores. Ketores represents being able to identify that which smells beautifully from that which is a putrid odor, same yesod. Then we go to psuke de zimra. So we'll say, do you remember again when we started this piece, the Rebbe said, after you go ahead and you're able to be courageous enough to identify the good inside of yourself, what's the byproduct of that? What can you do? You could create what? A nigun. That's Psuke de Zimra. Psuke de Zimra is the personalistic song that a person has the ability to sing once they find the good inside of themselves. And I'm about to say, take it a little bit further because I skipped a couple of pieces. You go Psuke de Zimra. What comes after Psuke de Zimra? Berchos Kriyashma and Kriyashma. See, I will say, the only way to have a relationship with Hashem is if you're first comfortable enough having a relationship with yourself. You see, if I don't like myself, it's going to be very difficult to have a meaningful relationship with the Ribono Shel Olam. If I can't stand me, will say this was the whole yisod. There's the famous story of Elisha ben Avuya, right? Elisha ben Avuya. So Elisha ben Avuya was one of the great Talmidei Chacham of his generation. He became an apikoros for whatever the reason. He became an apikoros. And all of his rabbinic colleagues, ran away, with the exception of his Talmud Rabbi Meir. Right? And Rabbi Meir, at every juncture, would always say to Elisha ben Avuya, Chazar b'cha. I always say there's the beautiful story where, you remember this Gemara, where Elisha ben Avuya is riding a horse on Shabbos. He's riding a horse on Shabbos, and Rabbi Meir is following behind him. So Elisha ben Avuya turns around to Rabbi Meir and he says, Meir, Chazar b'cha Meir, Chazar b'cha Meir. Meir, you have to go back. Shekvar shi'arti be'ikvi susi ad kan tchum Shabbos. Elisha ben Avuya is saying, I'll be counting the steps, and I'm right about to leave the tchum. Right about to leave the Shabbos boundary. Meir, you have to go back. So what does Rabbi Meir say? Rabbi, come back with me. Come back with me. Let's go back together. Not just back to the tchum, but let's go back. Let's just go back together. And what does Elisha ben Avuya say? He says, K'va amarti lecha. I already told you already so many times that b'chol yom bas kol yotzes va'omeres shuvu banim shovevim chutz me'acher. A voice comes out from Shemayim that says, return, O wayward children, except for Acher. Acher, Elisha ben Avuya, don't come back. Don't come back. And Rabbi Soloveitchik, in his Tshuva Drashas, says something so beautiful. The Rav's lashon was, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never said chutz me'acher. He never said chutz me'acher. Right? So where did chutz me'acher come from? So this is the Rav's lashon. The Rav says, Sherichuko garam lo lishmoa chutz me'acher. You see, Acher was so disgusted with himself. Right? He was so disappointed in himself. He was disgusted with himself. And he said to himself, if I don't like me, then there's no way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu likes me. Why would God like me? What is there to like? So the Rav says something so amazing. Rabbi Soloveitchik says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu never said chutz me'acher. HaKadosh Baruch Hu would never say chutz me anyone. Everyone has a seat at the table. The chutz me'acher wasn't God's voice. Chutz me'acher was whose voice? Whose voice? It was Acher's voice. It was Elisha ben Avuya. And that's what Rabbi Nachman's trying to highlight over here. You see, if I don't like me, and I don't see good in me, as they say, ein al ma lidaber, there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to do. There's no relationship with Hashem. There's no marriage. There's no relationship with your kids. There's no relationship with community. If you don't like who you are, it is impossible to forge relationships with anyone or anything else. Therefore, the Rebbe says, this is how the morning works. Shulchan Aruch says, first thing in the morning, get up, don't fall asleep, find the good, find the dawn, extract the light from the darkness, say karbanos, recognize you could pull out kedusha even from an animal, say ketoras, recognize that even if you have putrid smelling stuff, the rest of it smells great. Psuke de Zimra. If you're able to do that, then what? You could sing. You have a niggin. Then you could sing. The ability to sing comes from the ability to be happy and comfortable with who you are. And I want to be clear, doesn't mean ignoring the shortcomings. Chas v'shalom. Right? If I have shortcomings, I have to address them. But I also know not every shortcoming can be fixed immediately. Sometimes it's going to take time. And I have to find the ability to be comfortable in my own skin and to find the good inside of me, even when I'm in the process of self-rectification. And ultimately, again, I sing my niggin. And then I will say, only after Modani, Karbanas, Ketoras, Psuke de Zimra, do I get to Kriyas Shema. Only then can I go ahead and say Shema. Only. What's going on? You like a secretary over here? What's going on? Right? The president is mamish. Wow. Well, I'll tell them to sell. Just sell. Right? So let's say, so ultimately, again, so what's incredible over here is as follows. Only once you go through this process can you say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Only after you're comfortable and find the good inside yourself do you have the ability to forge a relationship with Hashem. So we'll say, now what happens after that? Now, page 3. The 3 is on the bottom, by the way, the middle bottom there. In the middle section, right by the asterisk. V'achar zeh, v'achar kol zeh, karbanas, psuke de zimra, berchos kriyas shema, azay maschilin lehispalel hatfila shal yurchos. See, I will say, this is incredible. It's only after you do all of this stuff that you can daven Shemona Esrei. Right? In other words, you would think to yourself, let me just start with Shemona Esrei. Shemona Esrei is the Iker. No. You can't say Shemona Esrei until you get to a point where you could have a relationship with Hashem. And having a relationship with Hashem first requires me to be able to look at myself in the mirror and have a relationship with myself. Only then could a person daven. Umaschilin. And I will say, how do we begin Shemona Esrei? Hashem sefasai tiftach, shebazem avakshim, sheyiftach pinu, v'nuchal, page 4. V'nuchal pinu lehispalo, ki al yidei kol haniskar la'el, she'al yidei zen isparu hanakudos tovos, al yidei zed daiko yecholun hispalo, al yidei shemotzin hatov, va'osin mishkan kaniskar la'el, v'az yecholun liftoach peh lidaber. I will say, isn't that absolutely amazing? You have to work to get to Hashem Sefasai Tiftach. I have to work to get to the level where I say, Hashem, open my lips, help me daven. But there's no davening. There's no right supplicatory connection. There's no petitioning HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no bakashas until I'm able to see the good inside of me, able to sing my niggin in Psuke de Zimra, able to create a relationship, and then and only then can I get to Hashem Sefasai Tiftach? Shabbos says, it's just, first of all, it's just a different way of looking at davening. What is it that I'm trying to accomplish over the course of the morning of davening, the entire time until Kriyas Shema? What I'm trying to focus on is seeing the good inside myself, believing that I am worthy, believing that no matter how much I've messed up, there is still so much good and so much beauty inside of me. Now, we're going to go a little bit backwards. Take a look at page 5. Take a look at page 5. So I'll say, so now, as I mentioned to you before, the Rebbe now here goes back and discusses Birchos HaShachar. And this is beautiful. Look what the Rebbe says. Page 5, middle section, you see where it says Birchos HaShachar right by the asterisk? So watch this. So the truth is, I skipped a little bit because the way the Rebbe does it is, he first spoke about getting dressed, putting on tzitzis, and tefillin. So we'll go back, but I'd like to just finish up the tefillah component of it. So we'll say, get ready for this. V'chol birchas hashachar merabei zalzeh shemishabeach la Hashem yisbarach she'azro limtzo biatzmo nekudos tovos kedei she'is orer misheinaso u'nefilaso. Says the Rebbe something so beautiful. The entire essence of Birchas HaShachar is the same dynamic, which also makes sense because the Rebbe already said that Karbanos is the essence of finding the good inside myself. So obviously Birchas HaShachar, which precedes Karbanos, is going to be part of this same process. Watch this. Get ready. V'zeh b'chinas Birchas hanosein lasech vivina lavchin ben yom u'vein layla. So we'll say, what's the meaning of this bracha? So firstly, you should know that there's a big machlokas as to how to define the word sechvi. So if we translate the word sechvi as how? Rooster. Aruch HaShulchan brings down the opinion that no, sechvi doesn't mean rooster. Sechvi means intellect. But either way, look what the Rebbe says. Ki anakuda tova hi bechinas yom shemeir v'hara hu bechinas laila v'choshech. I will say this goes back to the beginning of Halacha Aleph and Likutei Halachos, that remember again, day represents the good inside of me, and ultimately like Yom is the good, and Laila represents the negativity inside of me. So I'll say, so what's the whole chap in life? To be able to pull out your good despite all of the bad. To be able to see the light despite all of the darkness. He says, Va'al yidei shemotze hanakuda tova omer orer oso Va'azai nivdal hatov mehara Va'azai mavdil ben yom uvein layla V'zeh b'chinas lahavchin ben yom uvein layla. Shabbos says, listen to this. So the first thing the Rebbe says, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam or asher or hanosein lasech vivina lavchin ben yom uvein layla is what Hashem, thank you for giving me the ability to distinguish between night and day. Between day and night. By the Rebbe's model, what does that mean? Thank you for allowing me to see the good inside of myself. To see the Yom, to see the good, despite all of the Laila. Incredible. We'll say, what's next? No, incredible, no? It was such a different interpretation of the brachas. Turn to page 6. Watch this. Now, Rebbe's not going to go through all of the brachas, but once we get the theme, we'll be able to interpret them ourselves. The Gam, listen to this. Bechinas. Birchas shalo asani goy. What does he mean? Thank Hashem for not making me a goy. What does that mean? Ki im lo haya motze ba'atzmo u'ma'ores hanakuda tova ela haya nisha berichuk v'choshech haya yochol lipa legamrei chas v'shalom v'haya na'asem mamish bebechinas goy chas v'shalom. So the Rebbe says, what does it mean to be a goy? Now, he's not saying what does it mean to be a Gentile, but what does the word goy mean? The Rebbe says, goy means someone who's unable to find his good. It's unable to find his good. So I'm saying, Kadosh Baruch Hu, I want to be clear, the Rebbe is not saying that goyim, right, that Gentiles are not able to find. He's talking about a state of being as opposed to a particular individual. So Shalo Asani goy. Because I will say, think about this just a moment. Goy also means what? What does goy mean? What's the translation? Nation. Right? I will say, but interestingly enough, there's another name for nation, which is Am. I was interested in Am and Goy. Am is usually, again, in most times, is a more specific definition, versus Goy is a general nations. See, Goy is anonymity. It's identityless. Shalo asani goy. You see, I was like, the moment I begin to lose myself in my negativity, the moment that I'm unable to see any good inside of myself and all I see are the failures and the shortcomings, is the moment that I just become a guy. Not a Gentile. I just become anonymous. I just become lost. I just become identityless. So thank you, Hashem. Shalo asani goy. Thank you for giving me the koach to be able to see the good inside of myself so that I don't fall into the abyss of anonymity and just become another nation. Watch this. V'achshav al yedei shnis ora v'nis chazek al yedei she'azra Hashem yisbarach limtzav yatzon nekuda tova k'nitz kaleel al kinu model meshabeach al zeh la'Hashem yisbarach muvar shelo asani goy. Now we'll say now, by the way, I'll tell you something else. You know there's the famous kasha. What's the famous kasha on the bracha of shelo asani goy? What's the famous kasha?
Why don't I say, thanks for making me a gift.
Excellent. Why not say baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael? Shasani is saying the positive. So this is a big discussion. So first of all, the Pashat answer that the Rishonim bring down is because there's a whole machlokas of Noach lo la'adam shenivra yosem mishlon. Was it good that we were created or not? Was it a good thing that man was created? So it's a little bit of a difficult pill to swallow, but the Gemara's maskana is Noach shalo nivra. It would have been better had we never been created. But now that we're created, let's make the best of it. So therefore, again, the Rishonim say, we don't say a bracha of Shasani Yisrael, because Asani Yisrael is an affirmation that it's good to be created. We don't hold that way. So what we say is, now that I'm created, thank you for not making me a guy. But the Chassidus say it means so much more now, because remember, a Yisrael, what's the definition of a Yisrael? What's the thing about this? Yaakov Avinu who dies in this parsha. So say something for his analiyah, for his neshama. Yaakov Avinu, when does he get with the name Yisrael? Ki sarisa im anashim im elokim ve'im anashim vatuchal. Yisrael is the name you get after struggle. After struggle with what, Rabbi say? What kind of struggle? Fighting with yourself. Yaakov Avinu fought. By the way, when did Yaakov Avinu fight? When did he fight? Right? The whole night. The night at night. At night, the negativity, during a time of sleep. You see, the name Yisrael is when you fight back against your own personalistic negativity and you rise to the occasion. The dawn comes, you see the light despite all of the intense darkness. So the truth is, you can't make a bracha of Shasani Yisrael. Why can't I make a bracha of Shasani Yisrael? Why not? I'm not there yet. I just woke up. I'm not there yet. Maybe by the end of davening, or maybe by the end of life, I'll get to say Shasani Yisrael, but first thing in the morning, I'm generally not there yet. So what I'm going to say is Shelo Asani Goy. Thank you for giving me the strength to begin the process, to pull out the good, to pull out the light, and not to lose myself in the abyss of the negativity. Let's go weiter. V'zegam bechinas berchos pokeach ivrim, matir asurim, zokif kifufim. So the Rebbe groups all of these together. So the Rebbe says, in the brachas. So we'll say it happens to be in footnote Kuf Zayin. In footnote Kuf Zayin, he shows the Rebbe doesn't go through all of the brachos of Birchas HaShachar. What the Rebbe expects of us is as follows, that once he gives us enough of the brachos, we could kind of go ahead and figure out the thematic overtones of the rest. But let's go through what the Rebbe says. So we'll say, Pokeach Ivrim, Hashem gives sight to the blind. Matir Asurim, Hashem goes ahead and literally frees those who are bound. Zokif Kifufin, he straightens those who are bent. So what's the pshat? Here we go. Kimitchila be'esh shenaso nefilaso haya bebechinas iver hamegashesh ba'afela. Sirabosai, in the beginning of the day, in the morning, or in the beginning of life, I'm an iver. I'm blind. I say, what does it mean to be blind? All a blind person sees is what? Is darkness. He can't see light. Often in life, I'm blind. All I see is my negativity. All I see is the darkness. All I see are the bad and broken things. Sometimes life we're blind. We can't see the good inside of ourselves. And sometimes I'm incarcerated in the jail of my own mediocrity. Right? I'm incarcerated in the jail of my own failures. I feel totally confined and confounded just by my life failures. And not only that, sometimes what else? Well, say sometimes I feel that my failures are such a heavy burden that what? I can't stand up straight. Right? I'm buckling under the load. So says the Rebbe, so look at all the brachos we say. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Thank you for giving me the ability to open my eyes and to see the good. Matir asurim, thank you for allowing me to escape the jail of my own personalistic failures. Again, I will say, when we say escape the jail of personalistic failures, doesn't mean I'm ignoring my failures, chas v'shalom, but it means I'm contextualizing them. And I recognize that as significant and severe as my failures may be, there's so much good as well. Thank you, Hashem. Zokev kifufim. You know what? I don't have to be crushed underneath the burden of my life failures. There's more to me than the sum of my bad choices. There's more to me than ultimately, again, all of the missteps and the mistakes that I have made. There's more to me. There's more to me. So the Rebbe goes on, he says, he explains it now. I was incarcerated. I will say, this is Rabbi Nachman Lishi tells us, what am I incarcerated by? My sadness and heaviness. Right? I will say, sometimes I'm so sad and I'm so overwhelmed by the mistakes that I've made in life that literally, again, it just weighs on me. It just weighs on me. Sometimes I'm so bent over from the burden of my failures that I can't stand up straight to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But now, when I find the good inside of myself, but now that I begin to see myself in totality and I begin to see the good inside of myself, as a result of that, nitar ma'asurov. Ultimately, again, my captivity is removed. Right, the captivity of sadness and heaviness is removed. The niskaf mikafi faso, and ultimately, again, I'm able to go ahead. My bentness is straightened. Mikabel koach lizkar l'shem yisbarach ki al yedei zeh shemistakel al hatov zocha beemes lotzeis mikaf chov lekaf schos v'loshuv b'tshuva. V'chein shar habrachos kulon miramzin al zeh. And the Rebbe says, so to all of the rest of the brachos, ultimately again on Kriyas Shema, Birchos HaShachar, ultimately all highlight this same dynamic. Also, if you take a quick look at footnote Kuf Zayin, so the Rebbe here says in the footnote, he says, actually in the author says it, Birchas Shalo Asani Eved, Shalo Asani Isha, Ukimokein Birchos Ro Kaha Aretz, Sha'asali Kol Tzarki, Ozer Yisrael, Oter Yisrael, Lo Nisbaru. So, right, so just pointing out, the Rebbe doesn't define every single bracha. But he says, Ulakaman Messiah, but what do we just read? Ulakaman Messiah, Shekala Brachos Miramzin al Zeh. But yet the Rebbe says, by the way, this dynamic that I've described in Shalom Asani Goy, Pokeach Ivrim, Zokev Kifufim, Matir Asurim, it's the same dynamic expressed in all of Birchos HaShachar. He says, V'ulam, Yesh lahavin es biurim, v'fi mashem evar be'inyanim ke'ein elu, kigon be'me'uro shal'in alavushim v'atfilin yivor berchas ozer Yisrael v'oter Yisrael, ubira berchas matir asum. So we'll say what he's putting out over in the footnote is that, remember, some of the brachos actually correspond to getting dressed, to putting on tefillin, to putting on tzitzis. So we'll see the symbolisms of those brachos a little bit later on. But we'll say it turns out something as we bring this all together. So it turns out that we'll say, what's the avoda of the morning? What's the morning avoda of a yid, of a Jew? Is to wake up in the morning. First of all, we'll say we can't forget. Remember, how did all of this start? Yiskaber ka'ari lamo baboker la'avodas boro. The first thing in the morning is get up like a lion. What do? Shehu ma'orer hashachar. What does that mean? Bring the light. Bring the light. Don't let the darkness of your failures overtake you. You bring the light. But say, next step. Birchos HaShachar. Each of the Birchos HaShachar representing this idea of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you for not allowing me to fall into the clutches of anonymity. Thank you for bringing me out of the darkness of blindness, for allowing me to stand straight, taking me out of my incarceration. Then, Karbanos, the ability to pull out Kedusha even from the most base thing. Ketores, Chelbana smells terrible, but yet only with Chelbana do you have the full package. Once I see, and once I believe that I can bring light even from my own darkness, once I believe that there's more to me than just my failures, Suke de Zimra, I have a niggin. Once I have a niggin, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, I could create a relationship with Hashem. And once I could create a relationship with Hashem, Hashem sefasai tiftach ufi agid tehilasecha. Then I could daven. Yes.
It seems like a lot of what we're saying over here is that to develop a good feeling, I think, more than just a good feeling about yourself. But why is that necessarily going to translate into a connection to Hashem? We're just going to develop a good thing. I'm a good person and develop into hardiness. Necessarily, I don't see where the connection is between that and the two things.
So I think what the Rebbe is, it's a good kasha. I think what the Rebbe is saying is like this, is that in order to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to feel that you're someone worthy of a relationship. Right? You have to feel that you're worthy of it. In other words, what makes me think that I could speak to the Melech Malchei Amlochim? Well, who am I? If a person thinks that they're a nothing, if a person thinks, here's what I think people often get confused about. You see, people think that obviously the key to a meaningful relationship with Hashem is anava, right? We want to avoid gaiva. I want humility. But people sometimes think that humility means a lack of a sense of self. And there's nothing further from the truth. Humility requires me to know what I am and what I'm not, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was the Anav Mikol Adam. Yet Moshe Rabbeinu has no problem arguing with the Ribono Shalom and threatening HaKadosh Baruch Hu when he needs to. Why? Because he knew who he was. So I think what the Rebbe is saying is, like any relationship, right? Think about this for just a moment. A person can't have a marriage if you don't feel that you have something to contribute. If I don't feel that I'm a gavra, right? I don't feel that there's something good inside of me. I can't make someone else happy. I can't be there for someone else. I think what the Rebbe is saying is, if you don't believe in you, and you don't feel that you're worthy, or you don't feel that there's something good or redeeming inside of you, you never muster up the courage for Hashem Sefasai Tiftach. Does that make sense?
I'm still absorbing it a little.
Yeah. Now again, could it develop into an inflated sense of self and gaiva? Sure. Like anything unchecked. Obviously, again, this was the famous Kotzke, right? The Kotzke says a person has two pockets, right? And in one pocket I have the dictum Kol ha'olam nivra b'shvili. The whole world is created for me. And the other pocket, what do I have? V'anochi afar ve'efer. Right? There's always this dialectic. But I think, again, this I want to point out, by the way, this is Rabbi Nachman L'Shitaso, right? Everything about Rabbi Nachman is this piece. Rabbi Nachman is all about, if you don't believe in you, and you don't find something good in you, there's no relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Nothing. Could you argue it? Yeah, probably. But that's his shita. What were you going to say? Is that a hand up? No? All right, Chaver, good. We'll stop over here for tonight. Shkayach, everyone. Mamish, we're going to continue Meretz Hashem with Likutei Halachos next week. I think we're going to move to Halacha Beis in Meretz Hashem next week. Shkayach, everyone.
There Yosef says,